Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with 0 hour over and Chapter 7 now being able to be played. I thought, why not discuss it? Because, as we all know, that event was incredible. But, upon arriving in Chapter 7, there is someone who has arrived in the storyline who has basically flipped the switch on everything, and who we thought was in control of OG has now been revealed to be someone else. Previously, I have made a theory that the Dark Presence was the one behind OG, but after this event, no. He was only part of the plan. The real menace behind OG has just revealed himself, and possibly what his plans are for OG. And with that, let's go into today's video, as you might want to hear what I have to say, because I've got some theories and some speculations I'd like to throw into the mix. Because with Chapter 7, everything is about to change forever. And I got a lot of theories coming up, so stick around and enjoy. With the event, let's go over a recap of it. We begin in the Simpsons reality, where Hope and Jones are recalibrating Jones's portal device. And they're obviously talking about what they're going to do when they get there. They talk about the Dark Presence and bringing other beings from other reality to make an overwhelming force in order to defeat him, as they have now discovered that he is a Titan, which technically we already figured out from the IO bunkers in OG and the tweets online. Jones and Hope are recalibrating the device and bringing people from all across reality until the device is done. Jones sends a message across the Omniverse, speaking to every being in the Omniverse to come to Oninoshima to help in the fight. This message is really important for a character that's going to be explored later down the hunt. Once they sent their message, they used the device and rift to different realities. A black and white dimension, a Fall Guys dimension, a comic dimension, a few others like an underwater dimension, a dimension on fire. You get the gist. They were just reality hopping for a bit. To be honest, I would hope they would reality hop into OG, but yeah, guess not. They eventually arrive at Oninoshima, and this is where we arrive at the coolest scene in the entire events, and a reference to Avengers Endgame, where all the different collabs come through different rifts and start to attack the Dark Presence, who has finally revealed himself, towering over the island, getting ready to destroy it with the Zero Shard in his chest. As we all start to attack him, we see some familiar faces, such as Godzilla, the Mecha Team Leader, the Megazord, K-pop Demon Hunters, basically all the collabs we've been introduced in Chapter 6. They all came together Avengers style and helped us fight the Dark Presence. Even the Devourer showed up for some reason, but all help I guess we can get is good. There were a lot of references and unfortunately some brain rot in the back, but yeah, whatever. We also saw the Spirit siblings, except for Kendo, because Kendo didn't feel like beating the allegations that he's the worst character in the storyline. But that's just my opinion. They continue on, and they continue to fight until King Kong is knocked in and blocks our path. We are on a OXR helicopter and join the K-pop Demon Hunters until they decide to fly right up next to him and get slapped out the sky. Godzilla and King Kong are basically the MVPs of this event, basically laying the smackdown on Godzilla and, well, not Godzilla, on the Dark Presence. They are basically teaming up to do as much damage as possible, but the Dark Presence is just too powerful for them both. A Star Destroyer eventually shows up and it gets obliterated. Yeah, don't know why we thought bringing a Star Destroyer would help, but we get help from others, such as Homer, the Megazord, who I was watching in the event. He actually does nothing of value. He maybe slaps a tentacle once and then does nothing. Yeah, a lot of these characters that were brought here were basically cannon fodder for the Dark Presence to get slapped around a bit. We meet Kill Bill, who helps us defeat a tentacle. And then Jones has the brilliant idea to bring a cube here, because no matter what we fire at the Dark Presence, it's just doing absolutely nothing to him, and he is actually plowing through everything we send at him. Even the Devourer and the Mecha Team Leader who tries to shoot him So Jones summons a cube, but not just any cube, the red cube. Now, I believe Jones was bringing a random cube here. I don't think he intentionally brought the red cube here. But no matter what intentionally it was, he dragged the red cube from OG, which, if you don't know, was actually in the in-between on the OG island. So it has been dragged from there onto the Oninoshima island. And this is where an interesting thing is discovered. We know that the Dark Presence is part of the last reality because its runes on its head are basically cube style, and the monster is all purple, and it's... I don't know how it's associated with it, but we know the Dark Presence has some connection to the last reality. Although it's never stated, it's made very obvious that this is just a creature. And something interesting about the Dark Presence is it is just a creature for the Dark, or for the Nothing, who is the leader of the last reality. So after seeing the cube, it actually has some cut dialogue, which was unfortunately cut from the Dark Presence. Yeah, he had some voice lines that Fortnite took out, and the voice lines were, "You don't belong here." Now, this kind of confirms that the Dark Presence knows what it is, and doesn't want it there. This is when we kind of come to the realization that this cube is on a different mission, but when the Dark Presence sees it, it sees it as a threat to what it's doing. And we also discover that, well, we already knew this, but the Nothing doesn't tell his generals, his creatures, or his heralds anything about each other. They just have to learn for themselves. Because the Dark Presence obviously knows the cube, but it doesn't know its effect. You see, if you shoot a cube, it attacks you. The Dark Presence didn't know that, but I find it weird since it knew what the cube was. So it's obvious the Nothing doesn't tell its generals their weaknesses. You see, the Nothing doesn't care what happens to its generals as long as everything goes to his plan, which I'll continue about later. The Dark Presence attacks the cube, and the cube retaliates. And the Dark Presence is kind of able to held it off for a bit until throwing King Kong into it. This makes the cube unstable, and then the mecha team leader kicks it into him, where the cube attaches itself to the Dark Presence, exploding it and killing it. Now, this might be the end for the cube storyline for now, because we know that it was in the vault corrupting the in-between. So I don't think this is the end of the cube storyline, but I do think it's the end of its physical form. Or this version of it. You see, there's going to be more than more than one red cube in the future, and I think we know why. After the Dark Presence is killed, the Zero Shard repairs Oninoshima to its former glory, and that is when our heroes are taken away from Oninoshima and taken to the Golden Coast, which is Chapter 7. And Jones does a quick recap of the entire storyline, which, in my opinion, I believe he's recapping to Hope. You see, we know that Hope knows about the cube, but maybe this is Jones explaining everything to her, because, to be honest, it's not been really confirmed whether Jones has told her about his past. But in this little montage of him explaining, this might be how he tells Hope, because now in Chapter 7, Hope knows things that she shouldn't, unless Jones told her. And this is when the last reality, the Imagined Order, and our original storyline gets kicked into overdrive. They're all back, they're all ready, and the storyline has only entered Phase 2. Yes, if you watch the video, some screen pops up on the text, and it shows that we are only in Phase 2. The Nothing's plan to destroy the Omniverse has only stepped into Phase 2. And then we're introduced to the Traveller, who is the Dark Voyager, who, if you don't know, was actually a OG member who was in Season 1, which is revealed to us that he has been a member of the Last Reality since the beginning of time. And then we see his new form. He carries cubes around. And in a loading screen with a familiar friend, Lynx, who at this point also might be part of the Last Reality, it's revealed he can generate red cubes. Yes, folks, the Traveller was the one behind the Red Rift, the Red Rift Butterfly, and the Red Cube. OG is now technically its own separate timeline. Whether you want to call it an alternative universe, a separate timeline, or just its own thing in general, it's connected. OG was going in one way, and now it's been changed. Whether this was the 0 Point attempt to fix time or something like that, we don't know. All we know is OG is no longer the same because of this Red Rift. And thanks to the Traveller, we know it's him who sent it. And, of course, a few of my online friends have actually made theories about this. Like this guy who also follows me on Twitter, who made a really cool theory about it. You should go follow him. Point is, he has been behind the Red Cube, and we now know that it was the Last Reality who was behind all of OG. And their plans to corrupt or destroy the OG island. How this is going to take place, we don't know, but we know that they wanted the Red Cube inside the In-Between to start corrupting it. So whether or not the cube was brought to Oninoshima, it didn't really matter to the Nothing, because I believe he wants to corrupt the In-Between and the Vault and corrupt the 0 Point. That's his plan here. He wants to corrupt the 0 Point so he can destroy it. The Nothing wants nothing to remain. He wants all of reality gone, so only he remains. That is the plan. That is the goal and the alternative motive of the Last Reality. They exist only to destroy realities, which is why I also think the Dark Presence is part of the Last Reality. Because the Dark Presence didn't have any other plan, other motive, than to destroy Oninoshima. Which is why I believe that maybe centuries ago, the Dark Presence was sent to the Spirit Realm. Now, if you follow Oninoshima's story, you know that the Spirit Realm wasn't actually evil. You know that it was actually a place of good until the Dark Presence arrived. The Nothing sent the Dark Presence to corrupt the Spirit Realm and eventually make it out onto Oninoshima so he could destroy reality. How he was going to do that was beyond him, maybe by corrupting people. But then he got a Zero Shard, and that forced the Dark Presence plan into motion. Now, whether this was began from years ago or... We don't know how long the Dark Presence has been in the Spirit Realm, but we just know he's been in there for years. But once he got out, his sole motive was to destroy Oninoshima for the Dark Presence. Or, sorry, the Nothing. But the cube got in the way because the Dark Presence tried to destroy the cube, because the Nothing doesn't tell their generals anything. Just like the Herald, who basically sacrificed herself to destroy the island. The Nothing doesn't care what happened to his people as long as his plan falls into motion. The point is, the Traveller is nothing more than a... Well, in one way, he's forwarding the plan along. He was the one who sent the Red Rift to OG, because the Nothing wants to corrupt OG. So everything that has happened over Oninoshima, in OG, and even back now when we look at Season 1 to Season X, was all part of the Nothing's plan. Everything, Phase 1 has only been a test run for the Nothing. Now his real plan comes into mind. The Last Reality are back in full force, and members such as Lynx, the Traveller, or Dark Voyager are now revealing themselves as Last Reality members. Characters we once thought were on our side are now turning or being revealed as members of the Last Reality. And in my next video, there will be another member that I believe has revealed himself already. A character that has been with us even longer than Lynx, who is actually part of the Last Reality and has single-handedly been driving the plot for the Nothing's plan the entire time. But that's for next video. The point is, the storyline has now kicked into overdrive, and it's because of the Traveller, the Nothing, and the Last Reality. He was the one who sent the Red Rift Butterfly to OG to corrupt it from the inside. And in Season 7, we might find out more when the Ice King eventually gets pulled there. Now, I have some more theories on OG and the Visitor, because as we know, the Seven are slowly returning over the chapter. And we've seen the Order, but there are many more theories to come, because there's so much to cover in Chapter 7, and there's so much lore now. The storyline is officially back, and I cannot wait to cover all of it. And it's going to be a good time for Fortnite, let's just say. It's going to be a good time for me as well. I've got lots of theories planned, Chapter 7-wise, Chapter 5-wise, and even OG wise. So I hope you enjoy this journey that we're about to take, because it's going to be a long one and it's going to be a good one. The point of today's video was to explain what's happening in OG, what's happening in Oninoshima, and now what's happening on Chapter 7. And point is, this is only the beginning. And I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.